And now we're getting in breaking news about the India-Pakistan Foreign Secretary level talks, which was scheduled for the 15th of January, is likely to be cancelled. That's the news that we're getting in, that the government is still waiting for a response from the Pakistani establishment on actionable input provided to Pakistan. External Affairs Ministry sources say that the date was not announced by India. 15 January, however, was proposed by Pakistan. Now, that is the bit of news that the India-Pakistan talks will no longer happen. It is likely to be called off. Smita Sharma joins us for more details. Smita, Vikas Swaroop had very categorically stated that the ball is in Pakistan's court and they will only wait for, concrete action against the perpetrators and then they would decide. Is it now official that the Foreign Secretary level talks will not take place?
Well, what is official, Avantika, is that the talks will not happen day after tomorrow, as the media speculations were, and as was being reported that the 15th of January was when the Indian Foreign Secretary S. Jaishankar would have travelled to Islamabad to hold meetings with his counterpart Aizaz Chaudhary. But remember, S. Jaishankar, who is in fact on official visits to Malé and Colombo instead, what is now absolutely happening is that he is not travelling to Islamabad, but India is not calling this a cancellation of talks. Remember, Prime Minister Modi has politically gambled in a huge way over Lahore, and they do not want to perhaps return back to that same old rut of status quo with Pakistan, of whether to talk, not to talk, that entire dilemma of talks. So what they are saying is that, look, we didn't confirm the dates. There was no official confirmation from our side. So how can you say that we cancelled off the dates in the first place? That's the kind of logic that is being actually passed on by South Bloc, whether it's convincing or not convincing. But what we will perhaps see is, yes, India is saying that they are waiting and watching to see if concrete action does happen over Pathankot terror attacks or not. But perhaps rescheduling of dates. The other thing is, remember, 26 January celebrations are also to take place in India. Perhaps one of the fears in South Bloc is, what if there were to be another terror strike ahead of 26 January that would make, the talks being tenable almost impossible. So perhaps New Delhi might actually reschedule and propose dates for talks eventually towards the end of the month or maybe early February.
Absolutely. Very interesting turn of developments there. The uncertainty cloud still prevails, Smita. Now, after the bitter collapse of the NSA level talks, we are once again seeing, the main issue of Pakistan supporting terror, again hindering bilateral ties between both the countries.
Avantika, as far as Pakistan's support on terror is concerned to the various terror groups, perhaps one of the arguments that is being given by the advocates of dialogue is that, look, it's so easy for anybody and everybody sitting in Islamabad, be it a state actor or a non-state actor, to undermine an Indian Prime Minister's position every time they try and, extend this hand of friendship towards Pakistan.
Right.
Which is the reason why perhaps one needs to consider if a base minimum level of engagement makes much more sense than completely calling off talks every time there is a terror strike, because till the time your own security mechanisms are not in place, the Pathankot terror attacks have once again revealed the kind of watch-ups that we have seen, the kind of lapses that we have seen. Clearly, lessons not learned even post-Mumbai attacks. So till the time your security systems are not in place, perhaps very difficult to control outside factors.
All right, Smita, stay with me. We also have consulting editor Rajdeep Sardesai now joining us for more perspective. Rajdeep, I remember during the NSA level talks, despite all that increase in tension, government did stood committed to talks till, of course, the Pakistani establishment, invited the Hurriyat Alliance. But this time around, I'm seeing an Indian government, talking tough and not really willing to engage with Pakistan till they walk the talk and act on their promises.
Look, I think look at how the situation has changed in just the space of 3 weeks. On Christmas Day, the Prime Minister goes to Lahore on an unscheduled visit, embraces Nawaz Sharif, attends personal engagements of the Pakistani Prime Minister, and indicates that the talks will continue irrespective of attempts being made to derail them.
Yes.
That was the message that was being sent out, that the two leaders were going to rise above the rhetoric and we're going to engage with each other on a sustained basis. In 3 weeks alone, it has taken that entire spirit of Lahore to find itself derailed in the icy chill of Pathankot, with the result that we are virtually back to square one, unless, of course, we expect some level of engagement through the national security advisors, after which you can expect the foreign secretary level talks, perhaps when somehow there is a sense that Pathankot is behind us. So clearly though, given all that has happened in the last month, it's clearly one step forward and one step back. We are back to square one, some would say.
Absolutely. Rajdeep, do you think India and Pakistan would be able to get over their deep-rooted mutual mistrust? And do you think, the foreign secretary level talks will in fact take place, if maybe not day after, but maybe in a week or two?
I think it will happen. I think the two leaders, Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Sharif, have invested too much for them not to go ahead with some kind of dialogue, some kind of engagement. Having said that, I do believe that a lot of groundwork will need to be done. There will have to be some overt action taken by Pakistan, perhaps the house arrest of Jaish leaders, which will show in some way that Pakistan in some ways at least acting against those terror groups which are supposedly involved in activities like Pathankot. So I think it's going to be a very gradual, incremental approach. You will not have some dramatic gesture being made like was made on the 25th of December. You will now have to get back to the nitty-gritty of hard diplomacy. And that will be a process which will be more incremental, which will be slower. But I do expect at some stage the two foreign secretaries within the next 4 to 6 weeks to meet, at least to set some ground rules for future engagement.
All right. We also have with us Sushant Sareen, defense analyst, who is with us on the phone line. Sushant, a similar scenario we saw a few months back during the NSA level talks, with a lot of tension building up to the talks, tough rhetoric being exchanged. And now we're getting to hear that, the foreign secretary level talks will probably meet the same fate. The talks just might not happen on the scheduled day, but could be postponed further.
Yeah, well, I think it does seem like they might be postponed for a few days. I don't think they'll be called off. I don't think they'll be cancelled. I agree with whoever was speaking before me that, both sides seem to be, at least on the Indian side, the government seems to be quite invested into this process for whatever it is worth. I think they would want to give it a good shot. And one of the tests of the current situation is going to be whether the Pakistanis actually deliver on the commitments which they have given in the conversations between the two NSAs, also between the two prime ministers. Now, I don't think, we can just say that trust in itself is going to be enough until the Pakistanis start living up to the trust which they expect us to repose in them. That is one point. The other point is, I don't think that trust is going to really be reposed in them if the kind of action which they take is of the cosmetic nature which the speaker before me was talking about, that you just hold somebody for a couple of days so that, the Indians can show something to their public opinion. Because at the end of it, those questions will be asked both inside India as well as of the government by the political opposition, that how come have been satisfied with just these minor cosmetic gestures. So I think the Pakistanis will need to move seriously against these guys, also to prove their commitment, which they keep tom-tomming before the rest of the world, that they are genuinely serious in fighting terrorism. And if that doesn't happen, I don't see, we might still get into some kind of a dialogue with them, but it will be a rather desultory sort of a dialogue. It won't lead anywhere.
All right. Sushant, thank you so much for speaking to us and expressing your thoughts. We also have on the phone line Sanjay Jha from the Congress. Sanjay, thank you so much for speaking to us on India Today. Your reactions, we don't have an official confirmation, but one thing is clear, that the foreign secretary level talks will not take place, at least on the scheduled date.
Well, Avantika, I think, basically what you're witnessing is an extremely poor foreign policy of this current Modi government on Pakistan in particular. I think all the flip-flops that have happened, and if you look at the number of U-turns, they number roughly 6. That you have 6 U-turns by our own government. It goes to tell you that, this government doesn't have a coherent, calibrated and a considered foreign policy. And the very fact that India is now becoming a regular, victim of terror attacks, basically the message is very, very clear that Pakistan is seeing India under Mr. Modi's government as being extremely weak, indecisive, and uncertain about how to take the relationship forward.
But you know, of course, the party has been accusing the government of playing this absurd game of diplomatic chicken. But are you satisfied that at least, you know, till the time Pakistan does not walk the talk and act on their promises of, you know, punishing the perpetrators, especially in the wake of the recent terror attacks in Pathankot, that the government has stood firm and at least are not pursuing the Foreign Secretary talks that was planned before on the 15th of Jan?
Well, you know, any seasoned, you know, analyst or a diplomatic expert will tell you that, you know, that whatever, you know, kind of evidence has been given by Mr. Modi's government to Pakistan, and we all know that, you know, the terrorists who came into Pathankot definitely had the backing of the military generals or the ISI and the Pakistan establishment. But to expect Pakistan to return to you within 48 or 72 hours and, you know, provide you with necessary, you know, action at their end is, I think, frankly, a preposterous expectation. So I think the government ought to have been a lot more firm, more clear, more categorical, and whatever decision they still haven't. I mean, you're also quoting to me sources.
Yes.
The truth is, to have reduced India-Pakistan dialogue into some kind of a, you know, petty, you know, suspenseful drama is making a mockery of the great Indian democracy.
All right, Sanjida, thank you so much for joining us. We're taking a quick break right here on India Today. Do stay tuned. We will continue to get you lots more news and updates and reactions on that bit of news.
Mansari, who was there with many other friends trying to take a selfie. The latest that we are hearing is that Ramesh Walunja's body has been found at Mahim near Dharavi.